Hello and welcome to this presentation about formal writing. In this presentation we will cover essay, report and article. We will also cover general tips to consider while writing a formal text. This presentation is made by Nicklas P and Niclas L.
A formal language is always a good thing to use whenever writing for someone else to read. With formal language, text seems a lot more trustworthy. The first thing to think about is to be aware of what audience you are writing for. If the audience is unknowing of the topic you are presenting, perhaps more basic information is appropriate. Well, if you are writing for experts on the subject, deeper intellectual information should be given. Always use linking words to let your readers keep up with your texts. Linking words are helpful whether your audience are experts or not. Another thing to think of is that in most texts, personal pronouns should be avoided as far as possible, since words like I, you, me, and us sounds very unprofessional. Do never in your writing use local slang, since it might not be understood by everyone in your audience. Always use the Queen's English or formal American writing. Using informal language or slang makes the text personal, which is not what you're striving for when writing a formal text. Also, swear words are obviously never accepted. The last thing to consider when writing a text with formal language is the presentation of the text, for example, the font. While Comic Sans might look funny, and although you're a funny guy, use a more formal font like Times New Roman or Garment. Although if you wish to write the text by hand, make sure you have a readable handwriting.
An essay can be a school project in which the task is to write a text about a certain subject. It often states a clear outspoken opinion of the author, or it can state two sides of an argument. To start off with, it is important to consider the length of the text. It can't be too long, or it will become boring, yet all the information has to be contained. It's a tricky thing to do, but it's necessary to make a good essay. Secondly, a formal language is very important in order to gain the audience's trust. You want them to think you know that you know what you're talking about, even if you don't. Lastly, the essay needs to be clearly structured with an introduction, a body, and a conclusion, with a clear indication of when changing between the parts using linking words. The introduction of the essay needs to be interesting to catch the reader's attention. The body needs to be divided into several paragraphs so it's easier to read. The final paragraph should be a conclusion of the text, bringing up key points and summarizing the essay.
An article is often a short text published in a magazine or on the internet. Its prime objective is to show your opinions and convince others. That's why the writing often works just like an argumentative text. Awareness of audience is very important and where the article is posted. Posting an article about the 19th century art history in a sports magazine probably won't get you many readers. The title is an important instrument. It's the first thing the reader sees, and it needs to catch the reader's interest enough for the person to start reading the text. The introduction should quickly put the reader into the subject with a short summary of the topic at hand. The body should show the ideas of the author and convince whoever reading the text that these ideas are the right ones. Rhetorical questions and other rhetorical devices are recommended to involve the reader into the text and to keep the readers interested. All in all, the text should preferably be short and concise to keep the reader's interest all the way through.
A report is a text that presents specific information and evidence about a subject. The given information is then analyzed and applied to a particular problem. This could be anything from a report about a school activity to a scientific report about an experiment. The information is presented in a clear and structured form with an introduction, a body, and a conclusion. The introduction should be designed to catch the reader's interest and should include the hypothesis, or a question. In other words, what the purpose of the report is. However, texts that are not supposed to be scientific can have a thesis statement instead. The body presents evidence that supports the thesis statement or proves the hypothesis, true or false. It should be divided into several paragraphs, joined together by linking words. Each paragraph presents a certain evidence and should be started off with a separate headline that shows what the paragraph will talk about. The final paragraph should contain a summary and a conclusion of the report. When writing the report, remember to keep any personal pronouns such as I, me, you, and similar out of the text in order to make the report seem more formal. However, when the CAA exam takes place, you can get away with some personal pronouns, since it's a handwritten text under pressure. Formal language is obviously enforced in order to write a good report.
To summarize it all, formal language is always preferable whenever writing for someone else to understand. Using formal language means skipping informal words, personal pronouns, and never using slang or bad language. Remember to always use linking words. The essay should be an appropriate length with a clear structure and directed to an intended audience. The article should also be directed to an intended audience, but should be a lot shorter and interesting, including all your own opinions. The report needs to be more objective in order to include all the sides of the story. Present the evidence and make sure it's connected to the thesis statement or the hypothesis. Make sure to address the audience in an appropriate manner.
This was a presentation about formal writing. We thank you for listening and we hope you found it useful.